Hey guys, what's going on? Steve and I have a 2007 Ford F150 in the garage, and we're getting ready to put a power steering hose in it.
All right, so we got a 2007 F150, and we're gonna replace the power steering pressure hose on it. It's leaking, and we also got the boot on the steering rack that is pulled back off, and we're gonna put a clamp on that. And we definitely have a leak from the power steering hose on the top, leaking down right on the boot. And we're hoping the steering rack isn't leaking. So we're gonna get the steering pressure hose on and put the clamp on the boot for the steering rack, wipe everything down dry, and then we're gonna run it and make sure that we took care of the leak. On our starting point here, we have the oil drain, and we're gonna take this off, and we're gonna take the oil filter off so that we can get at the line. So this is actually the power steering pressure line here. It rotates over from the pump, rotates over, and then it screws onto the steering rack over here. And we'll be able to turn the wheel on this side, and we'll show you we get in there so that we can get in there for the line to go into the pressure rack. So we just took one bolt out here, which is for the oil drain and for the oil filter. And we're taking this other 10mm one off right here. And we're gonna get this plastic thing right out of our face, and it's gonna give us a little more viewing room. And then we'll take the oil filter off, and we're gonna reuse, we're probably gonna have to reuse the oil filter because we're not doing an oil change. And if we're not comfortable with it, we'll put a new filter on it. So we're gonna get this bolt off here, and they're both 10mm. Here's the pressure line. It runs up. We'll get the oil filter off so you get a better look at it, but it's running up to the bottom of this pump right here where the pulley is. We're gonna take the oil filter off. We use the filter thing to clamp onto it. It's tough to get a filter wrench in here, so we use this round tool to take them off. So, you know, once you crack them loose, you're good. We'll set the filter aside as we're going to be putting it back on. So right here, we got our boot that peeled back off the steering rack. You know, we're going to wipe this all down clean here, and then we'll put the boot back on with a clamp. But if you look in here, right here is the 10mm bolt we got to take out for the line. And this has a piece of metal that holds these two lines in place with an O-ring. And we get the line off, we'll show you that. So we're going to disconnect that 10mm bolt, and we're going to take this 10mm bolt off over here, and we're also going to take this, it looks like a 15 that's right here, and then we have the line that comes up on the bottom over here below the pulley, which kind of looks like it's going to be a pain in the ass, to be honest with you. So we're going to have to figure out how we're going to get a wrench in there, but we're going to get something in there to take it off. And we'll tell you the size of that. So we're gonna spray this with penetrating oil, get this nut off right here, over here, and then we're gonna take this one off over here. All right, so we got an 8mm here that we're taking off. Okay, get that one out. All right, so it's a 15, and we cracked it loose. Make this short ratchet in here. And you know, I'm always preaching about penetrating oil, and I didn't put any on it. We're going. There's a little wiring harness that I just moved onto to the left of it. And here's where the penetrating oil would help me, because it's starting to get tight. Okay, so we have a pressure switch here for the power steering hose, and that was the little harness we moved aside up there. So we're going to pull this little tab back here with our fingernail and try and unplug this. There it goes. Okay, I'm going to move that aside. And we took the 15mm bolt off the stud up here. And of course it was, like Tony says, 9 miles long. You can see it over here. So we're going to pull the line back. So now we get the line loose. We're gonna just bend the line up a little bit and pull this, rotate this around. So now there's no tension on the line. I think the crappiest part of this job is gonna be trying to get this wrench right here to get this off. All right, so we got a 10mm gear wrench in here, and we're cracking this one loose. Because the boot's pulled off here, we're actually taking advantage of it and pulling it back so we can get our hand in here a little bit more. Take this bolt out. All right, so we're holding the hose and we're wiggling it. It's the top hose. We're gonna try and get this screwdriver in here. Here it comes. So it just comes out. Here comes the fluid. And if you look at this side of it, it shows you you can see the line that we got here. And it's just got this metal bracket on it. Now we never even took the other one out, so we're not even gonna touch it. In the new line, we just got to put the O-ring on here. So we'll put the new O-ring on here. We'll let this one drip down. We cut an 18mm wrench because we don't have crow's foot.
Yeah.
And it wasn't all that tight to get in there. And we put a flat side on one side of the wrench. So now I have the wrench in there and I'm cracking, and I just cracked it loose, and it wasn't super crazy tight. So I'm gonna keep backing the wrench off. I gotta get my arm up in this way here, and I can somehow get my hand up from the backside to hold the backside of the wrench. So I can actually get two hands in there. So I'm gonna back the line off right now and take it out, and then we'll show you the wrench that we made. And yeah, I sacrificed an old 18mm wrench, but it was well worth it. If you had a crow's foot, you would still have to grind one side of it and then go in with the long extension. But this seemed to work for us today, so we're gonna just slowly, I got one arm up here now holding the back side of the wrench, and I can crack it loose. I got it loose, and now I can just keep taking small quarter turns to get this thing off. And it ain't a quick process, guys. So, but it's coming off. And of course, everything is totally wet on this truck, so my arms are filthy, and it's not a clean job. So, and we'll let you know how it is trying to get the new line started. Now I've turned it about 4 times with the quarter turns, and it seems like it's loosening up pretty good. So after we get it off, we'll let you know, but this is what we end up having to do to get it off. So we just got we had to wrench the line the whole time, and the line came out, and so we have both sides of the line out. Now we're gonna feed the line out through here gingerly. Remember, we have our sensor plugged in over here, and if you're gonna try and reuse it, the sensor was, like 50 bucks. So if we can put this thing in the vise and take the pressure sensor out, then that's what we're doing. It's kind of rusty and shitty looking, but we're gonna give it a shot. We bought a new one just in case, but it was 50 bucks for this sensor, so we want to try and reuse it if we can. All right, so we got a 9/16 wrench on our fitting here. We're gonna see if it cracks loose. And it did. So it's got a little O-ring on this thing, and the O-ring still looks good. So we're good there. And just wipe it down. We'll put a little grease on it. And let's get the new line. And we're gonna match up all our fittings on the new line. And this plastic washer was coming off, and this is what was, because this thing didn't turn very easy, so I'm hoping the new one turns a lot easier. So let's grab the new line, and we'll get this threaded onto it and locked in place. And then we have to change this bracket over right here, and they give us some new rubbers in the package. So let's go get the new line, and we'll get this all set up. So we got these tongues here. We just bent this thing up and back, and we're gonna expand this now because we have to transfer all these over. They didn't give us new ones with the lines, so we got new rubbers but no new brackets. So if they were rotted, I guess you're dead in the water. Oh, get that one there, and then this one has a rubber that goes on. So you want to make sure that we have these things all up on the same area here. So this rubber is going right here on this strip here. It's part of it here. And we're gonna bend the bracket back around on this thing here. And then we'll tuck the metal tongue in the hole and then bend it over. And we'll still be able to work this thing around and make it swingable so we can move it. So you crush it in like that. And then I guess we're trying not to crush the rubber like we just did, so we'll have to move the rubber around to the other side. So we made up the line, had to transfer the brackets over. So we got everything transferred over, we got our new O-ring on here, and change our sensor over, and we're gonna slip this thing back in place. We sprayed everything with a little bit of penetrating oil in case we have to twist or rotate the lines a little bit. Everything is still, will move a little bit. Alrighty. All right, so we're gonna try and feed the line back up in place here. And it's kind of a pain in the butt, but we'll get it in there. Gotta watch out for the sensor. Okay. We got our fitting here. It's gonna lock on. Try to push it in place. There it is, it just popped in. You guys heard it. Okay, so we're gonna just catch the bolt. Now we didn't touch the return line, so this should just sit flush down there. And we'll put our bolt in. But I don't wanna tighten anything until I get this line onto the power steering pump, because this is the critical part. That's probably the crappiest part of the whole job, is getting this power steering thread onto the pump here. So we're gonna put that bolt in right now and just get that thing just a little snug. All right, so we got our little 18mm wrench, and to get this line started, I was holding this side of the line here, and I had my hands up in here, and I'm twisting to get the line started, and I got it to get started, which is great. So it's in there, and then we used our little 18, and we kept just wrenching like this, and we got it in there and tight, and we've just popped our little booty back on here for the bracket, and we're gonna get the oil filter put back on it after we get this. So we have our bracket here that we put on, and for the line, and we'll bend that right now. Okay, that's on. We're gonna put some penetrating oil on that, and that sucks the line down into place over here like this. And we'll get the 15mm back on there. We had to use the short ratchet and ratchet that whole thing down. And we have our sensor down over here, and we can plug our sensor back in because we were able to save it, so we're good. All right, so that's all back in. I'm gonna get the 15mm nut put back on here, and we get the 110mm nut that goes over here. We'll get the oil filter back on, and we'll get our cover back in place that we took off over here. So basically 3 10mm and a 15mm away from being done, and then we're gonna fill it up, power steering fluid, bleed the system by turning the wheels left and right, and we're gonna make sure we don't have a leak, and we're gonna repair the boot on the on the steering rack. Okay, we're tightening up the 10mm for the other end of the pressure line that goes into the steering rack. It's another 10-mile long bolt. I don't know what it is with bolts on this thing, but. So we're tightening the 15mm. Getting this is a real long bolt, and we'll get this one all the way tight. And we got to put the oil filter back on and the plastic drain bracket over here, and that should be it. So once we get this thing tight, we'll get the bracket in place and we'll show you that. All right, so we slipped the shield back up in place. The side with the tongue goes up against the outside frame. We got a 10mm there and a 10 here, and we're going to tighten these things up and get these all tight. Cutting that little 18mm wrench was the key to the whole job, because we didn't have the crow's foot. And even if you had a crow's foot, you'd still have to grind one side of it flat. to get it in there. All right, that one's tight. Let's get this one done. And we'll slip the oil filter back on it. Make sure it ain't leaking. So we're topping off the fluid right now. And we're going to start it up and turn the wheels left and right and bleed the system. Just about knocked in. Keep turning them left and right. All right, keep them straight. It's a little aerated, and so we're filling it up, and we're gonna have to, we've got a quart of fluid, but we're gonna use a little more than that. So we're gonna add another probably quarter of a quart, and we should be good. By turning the wheel to the left and right, you're bleeding all the air out of it. You get it so it's nice and quiet. Let's get a little more fluid. All right, so we put it all back together, check the leaks, no leaks. We got everything down off the lift, so we got everything tightened. And like I said, we bled the system by turning the wheels left and right, inspect the leaks. We put our clamp on our boot, and we have no leaks. So we should be good.